This is Jeff Makinen at DRF Sports. In this video, I'll be demonstrating handicapping NBA basketball using the DRF Sports Matchup tool, which is included as part of a DRF Sports subscription. To access this service, simply log on to sports.drf.com or load www.drf.com and click the Sports logo in the upper right-hand corner of the site. From there, you'll be prompted to either log in or subscribe. Existing customers will log in with their username and password. And once logged in, you'll see this. Your initials will be in the upper right-hand corner of the site, indicating that you have successfully logged in. New customers can subscribe at that pop-up window. For just $5, you'll have access to this matchup tool, along with all the great content for NFL football, college football, NBA basketball, college basketball, NHL and MLB, and all of that costs just $5 a week. Once again, this video is about handicapping NBA basketball utilizing the DRF Sports Matchup tool. Each of our sports has a similar design for our matchup tool. In the upper left-hand corner, we'll display the teams playing, their records, along with the opening and current line, the betting rotation board number, and the game start time. That's all included in this upper left-hand capsule. From there, in the center location, we will have our game simulator. We do this for football, basketball, baseball, hockey, all the sports. Basically what it is a computer simulation which will generate a projected score for a game, which you can then compare up against the current line for some line value testing. We also have a power rating line system. This is a separate calculation that is based primarily on team performance versus expected performance, and that will also generate, here in this case, a hypothetical line. And in the cases where that line differs significantly from the current line, you'll see an edge star. In this particular case, Brooklyn and Philadelphia are actually projected to be a pick in this game, and that is 8 points of value to Brooklyn, so we do generate an edge star there. Going back to that game simulator, we project a 114 to 104 Philadelphia win. So as you can see, there are different calculations with relatively significant different results. One thing I like to do is average the two together. In this case, you have, for instance, Philadelphia as a 10-point victor in the game simulator, and a pick in the power line. Averaging those two together would be 5 points with a current line of -8. That represents 3 points of line value to Brooklyn. So there's some value in Brooklyn in this game. That is certainly one way of looking, and this power line simulator combination, or one or the other, represents a great starting point for you in your handicapping process. In the other section below on the far right here, we have our team offense and defense statistics. This is basically a summary of some of the key statistics, team statistics for each team. A couple things to quickly look at: point differential. This would represent the team's points for per game minus points against. In this case, Philadelphia outscores their opponents by 2.4 points a game. Brooklyn is being outscored on the season by a half a point per game. Another thing to look at is the schedule strength indicator. This is based on our power rating system. In this case, for schedule strengths, the higher the number, the more difficult the schedule. The lower the number, the easier the schedule. In this case, the two teams have played a very similar schedule, which is not surprising considering they're both from the Atlantic Division. Moving on, our next section is our betting angles, which is a great spot to find some line value. A lot of these are uncovering conditions that really none of the odds makers don't even consider as they put together the lines for these games. But what we're trying to do here is identify certain situations and conditions in which a team has either outperformed or underperformed against the spread or total. And we break it down in these cases in which the different trends and systems here which favor each team or favor each side against the total. So what I like to do here is you look through these, read them, and see if they make sense to you. And if they do, consider the average score and how that compares up against the current line. And then you can pretty much add that to either support or throw out effectively some of the conclusions that were drawn up against with our power rating systems. Our line movement section, this is an indicator of public sentiment in terms of the percentage of public bettors that are betting on each side of this game. A couple things to look out for. In this case, you have Philadelphia getting 70% of the wagers. That is a relatively high number in NBA basketball. Not significantly high, but one thing I like to do here is when I look at this 70%, it doesn't match with the fact that the Philadelphia line has moved from 9 to 8, so the line odds makers have moved the line in favor of Brooklyn, despite the public action going here on Philadelphia. So in this case, that would be what we would call potential sharp action going on the Brooklyn Nets in this game. Again, that's something to look out for. Similar with the totals. Here you got 62% of the wagers favoring the under. In this case, that does match the total dropping from 217 to 215. Injuries always of utmost importance here in the NBA. When you consider the simulator and power line scores, you should also factor in injuries. Now, in this case, we have significant injuries on both sides. The Durant injury has been a season-long injury, so I discount that since that is already built in to the projections here. However, the more recent injuries, the Ben Simmons injury with his back being questionable for tonight, along with the Kyrie Irving shoulder injury from a couple weeks back, these would pretty much you pretty much have to factor these in as you calculate the simulator and power line edges. In this case, I think it's pretty much a wash. Both of these players are significant to their teams. So if you pretty much back out both of those, you pretty much have one significant injury for each team, which in this case would pretty much balance each other out. We will also list other injuries in this particular game. There is only the 3 major injuries, but if there were other injuries which are not considered major, they would be listed here, but in black text. So the red text indicates a significant injury. Results basically will show you the recent results and upcoming schedule for the two teams. Things to look out for in this case, things like the streaks here. The Brooklyn Nets, leading into the All-Star break, had been on a 5-game ATS winning streak, 4 of 5 straight up. Philadelphia had been struggling prior to their prior 3 games. They actually had lost 5 straight against the spread before covering 2 of the last 3 with 3 straight-up victories in a row. We also list key team stats from those respective games. You can see a team's shots, their shooting percentage, rebounding, turnovers, etc. Basically the key stats that may have contributed to that win or loss. Head-to-head action is, as it would explain, as it would describe here, the past meetings in which these two teams had played each other. We'll break it down going way back, see if there's been a long-term edge from one team over another. We'll do the last 3 seasons in a summary, and we'll also summarize the games which are played at the current location. One thing to note, we will only display games, summaries for games that are played at the location of that night's game. So we'll either show you all the games or games played at Philadelphia. We'll not show you a summary of games played in Brooklyn since it's not relative to the current game. And then finally, we'll display the most recent games in a more detailed format beneath the summary. Team statistics, we break down every statistic that you probably need as you handicap these games. Shooting percentages, free throw percentages, rebounding, assist, fouls, steals, blocks, turnovers, you name it. We'll categorize those into different situations, including all games, division opponents, again, only if this game is between division opponents, last 5 games, road games, and finally, we'll also show you the average statistics for these teams' opponents. So you can see here, one thing I will note, and we'll have further videos in the future that will will go more in depth in terms of what's on this table, but in this particular case, the Brooklyn Nets allow 111 points a game against teams who on average score 110.9. So they're pretty much an average defensive team in that regard, pretty much giving up what is expected given who they're playing against. Trends, again, this is a massive library of all the different conditions and situations you'll need as you handicap this game. So things to look out for if something doesn't appear in your betting angle section, you can dig through here and see if there's things like how does Brooklyn do in road games, how have they done in February, how have they done after winning 2 of their last 3 games. Basically anything you can think of, you can go in here and see basically how the Nets or how each team has done against the spread this year or over the last 3 seasons, as well as straight up and over under in the various conditions. So a lot of information here to digest. Finally, we also have our game preview, which is a written article for each and every game in the NBA. This is a great place to look for information that you may not be able to get from the statistics presented in the rest of the matchup. Things, for instance, like motivation, maybe another source for players' absence or injuries, as well as maybe team turmoil, things like that. Some of the things that aren't detected from statistics, you can get it right here in our game preview. Finally, I want to show you a simple navigational item here. You can scroll between games by clicking the left and right arrows. Very simply, left arrow goes in the previous game in that board's rotation number. Right arrow goes to the next game according to the board rotation number. You can click View All, and you guessed it, that will show you all the games during that day for the NBA. Just simply click on one of the games to navigate directly to that game. I hope this helps you out in your handicapping process. I will be creating some further videos down the road where I'll go into more depth with each and every one of these sections that you'll use within the DRF Sports Matchup Tool. This is Jeff Mackin, Twitter handle @SportsDBExpert from DRF Sports. Thanks for watching.